Okay, so this is for session 2 of the Worship Initiative. This one was covering philosophy, numbers, and syncopation. Okay, so basically in the philosophy part, they went over kind of mostly how you should play. They talked about playing heavy and how it can it just sounds choppy and how it can like ruin it for the whole band. And the keyboard is more of a filler instrument more than a lead instrument most of the time. They talked about how being in a band, sometimes you have to pay attention to the rest of the band to determine what you need to be playing and how you need to be playing, because sometimes you do need to play loud, but most of the time not. They also talked about how you should make sure not to get too pedal heavy, and the pedal like will sustain the notes. And Clayton talked about how when you are sustaining chords for a long amount of time, it can just end up sounding muddy and just bad. He said that a lot of times with new like beginners on the keys, they tend to get really pedal heavy. So yeah, that's something that I will have to be paying attention to. The second part, they talked about the numbers, and they reviewed the scale and how to play in the key of C. And in the C chord, the first note, which is the C, is your 1, and then up the line is 2, 3, 4, 5. They went over the steps, the whole, half, whole, half, and how a half step is from one note right to the next. And then a whole step is skipping a note. And then, yeah, so they talked about how a chord in the C, key of C, is always going to be your 1, 3, and 5. And then, yeah, they just went through all the chords in the key of C, 1 through 7. There's the C chord, and then up to the D minor, E minor, but they said it could also be called the 1/3 chord or the C over E. Yes, and then there's the F chord, G, A minor, and then the 7th one was G over B or the 5/7. They also said that was just in the right hand, so they talked about what you should be playing in the left hand. And Clayton said that for the most part he usually only plays 2 notes, his pinky and his thumb in the left hand, because again, if you are playing all these notes together, especially when it gets when your one hand's higher up on the piano and the other one is lower, again it can start to sound really muddy again. So yeah, he said he only plays with 2 fingers on his left hand, which is usually like the 1 and the 5, or like the first note and the last note, with whatever the, yeah. And then finally on the syncopation, they said that, kind of with what they said in the first part, with the philosophy, was not to get too choppy, and how minimal playing can sound more flowy, and jumping a bunch of chords around and getting more fancy with it can make the song, really choppy and just run together. It can also ruin the mood if it's a really slow song, but you're like really getting into it, or you're just playing a lot of chords. It can just kind of, just ruin the mood of the whole song. So they played through the song Cornerstone, and during the song, the first time he just played his right hand, and then he added his left hand in, and but they were showing how he was playing the same chord in his right hand like the entire song, and all he had to do was change up the left hand. So that was really cool. They said that you don't have to pound out a bunch of quarter notes the whole time, but sometimes they said that it's more like feeling the music, because sometimes when you get too focused on the music and like too focused on how fast you're playing, you lose sight of what God is trying to tell you through those slow times in the music when it's so